The Gospel of Gold by G.S. Lewis. Chapter 16. Faustian Bargain. Darkness had almost completely fallen by the time Gold and Jinichi reunited with Marina at the North Gate. For all of Jinichi's anxious vigilance, there had been no further attacks, or even threats from the forest Pokémon. At first, upon spotting them, Marina's face was a mingling of confusion and fear under the lamplight. Then Jinichi swept the cap off his head and used it to cover the offensive R over his chest. Marina's expression turned to astonished recognition at once. She ran forward out of the lamplight, stopping to meet them halfway. It seemed to Gold that her hand came up, as if wanting to touch Jinichi's face, but stopped in midair. "Is that you, Junie?" asked Marina in a high voice, bordering on hysteria. Before allowing him a chance to answer, she spun on Gold. "How did you know he was here?" she demanded, sounding more amazed than angry. "And why didn't you tell me sooner? I would have rather gone searching with you than stand back here twiddling my thumbs." "I didn't know," Gold protested, putting his hands up. "I was just following an intuition. Spirit hardly ever outright tells me stuff." "And you!" Marina said, seeming to forget Gold at once as she rounded back on Jinichi. "Why are you in Team Rocket getup? What were you thinking, sneaking off without a proper explanation? Do you have any idea how worried I was about you?" Jinichi shuffled from foot to foot, looking every bit as guilty as he must have felt. Gold suspected that Marina might have gone easier on him if she had seen how swollen and injured he had been before, lying helplessly on the ground. She seemed in no mood for anything but venting, however, so Gold attempted to redirect the focus. "Do either of you have a lighter?" he asked. "We're not going to make it to Goldenrod City tonight, so we might as well talk this out over a campfire." Jinichi began fishing in his pockets, looking glad for the temporary reprieve, and Marina relented with a sigh. "Fine," she said, "but let's set up camp on the other side of the gate. This place is way too hostile." Compared to Ilex Forest, Route 34 was little more than an untamed garden. The impenetrable walls of trees and undergrowth were thrust back in a clearing so wide that the distant city lights of Goldenrod were visible on the horizon. The grass in this area grew tall enough to reach Gold's shoulders, but a man-made path allowed travelers the option of avoiding it altogether. There were some spots in the grass that had been cut short, either by tool or Pokémon, and were flattened like something had lain in them. It was in one of these grassy patches that Gold, Marina, and Jinichi stopped and made camp for the night. As they worked, Jinichi repeated his forest encounter to Marina. She said nothing, but her facial expressions spoke volumes. She was right to have been worried. Once there was a small fire pit going and food cooking, Marina gave Jinichi a pointed look. "Can't you put a sweater over that or something?" she said, indicating at his black rocket shirt. "If anyone comes along now and sees the R in the firelight, they're going to get the wrong idea." I can't." Jinichi looked away, his throat bobbing as he swallowed nervously. "Sure you can! Why wouldn't you be able to?" Marina pushed. "Come on, out with it now! What are you doing in Team Rocket clothes?" Jinichi gave a shuddering sigh. After a few more seconds of pregnant silence, with both Gold and Marina looking intently at him, he spoke. "It was the condition I agreed to when I accepted help against Azalea Gym," he said, meeting Gold's gaze, but not Marina's. "The guy who gave it to me, he said I had to wear it all the way to Goldenrod City, There's some kind of sensor sewn into the cloth that knows if I take the shirt off or wear anything over it." "And that was the rocket you met last night?" asked Marina for confirmation. Jinichi's back went rigid as he stared at her in evident surprise. "How did you know about that?" he breathed. Gold cleared his throat, feeling nervous in his own turn. "Because I was there, and I recognized his voice," he clarified. "That man was Proton of Team Rocket, the one who attacked me at Union Cave's west entrance. I passed you in the dark on my way from Azalea Gym and, Gold lowered his head in apology. "I eavesdropped on you. I'm sorry for not being honest about it sooner." "Oh." Jinichi looked away to the fire, and his face was blank for a second. "Well, it sounds like you already know most of it then," he said, without inflection of tone. "What's really left for me to tell?" "The only stuff we know is from your texts this morning," Marina entreated, with a pleading look. "That's all, I swear. Gold?" Gold nodded his head vigorously in agreement. "We want to help. Please, talk to us." Jinichi was silent for another few seconds. Then he began to talk and recounted his morning meeting with Proton. It might have been the campfire atmosphere or Jinichi's apparent talent for storytelling, but he wove a vision of the encounter that Gold effortlessly pictured in his mind's eye. It was still dark out, darker than it is now. I wouldn't have found my way back through Azalea without the aid of the few street lamps in the early hours. My mind was still fuzzy from lack of sleep, and my thoughts were preoccupied with worry for what would happen if my provider didn't appear, or what might happen if he did. Before I go on, I've got another confession to make. Don't ask me for elaboration on it, because I just want to hurry and get done telling this, but I can't leave it out. I've done this once already. It was back in Violet City, when I faced Faulkner's gym after Gold left town. I knew exactly what to expect from him after seeing Cannon's fight, and with only Chikorita on my team at the time, it went almost as badly. Then I happened across a young man who was dressed plain enough, but who seemed unusually eager to talk to me. He said he wanted to offer me a trade, his Onyx for a Bellsprout, so that I could stand a chance against Faulkner. The weird thing is, well, Bellsprout are common around Violet City's grasslands. Why would this man need one from me? At the time, I reasoned that he was trying to be charitable without it feeling too much that way, so I accepted. I was happy for a secret weapon to secure my first badge, but that guy, after the trade, his grin was just a little too wide, like he had really gotten the better part of the deal. It finally came together when I met Proton in the agreed-upon spot. He was dressed in his Team Rocket garb, but there was something in his arms at the time which covered the R on his shirt. It was too dark to make much out anyway, but he seemed to see me immediately. "The contingency plan proved necessary after all, did it?" he gloated. "Let me guess. Your Pokémon are unconscious and inadequately leveled. Oh, they're stronger than anything else you've fought so far, but Leader Bugsy is simply beyond all that you could have expected. Do I have it right?" I didn't like his tone, but he had read my situation like he'd been following me. Maybe he had, I don't know. But I needed his help, and he knew it well. "Can you help me or not?" I asked impatiently. "Help you?" he echoed with a sneer in his voice. "Why should I help you? What are you prepared to offer me in return?" His question threw me for a loop, and for a while I was speechless. He laughed softly, but in the stillness of the night, the scorn of it rang in my ears. "So entitled," he cackled, observing my reaction. "Even now, your generation is hung up in the mindset of free Pokemon Center care." Abruptly, his laughter ceased. "It's not coming back. The sooner you accept that, the sooner we can move forward with business." At that, he was silent for a little while, and I think he was waiting for my response. There was only one I could make. "What do you want?" I asked. "Ah," he answered in a deep breath, sounding greatly pleased. "That's better. I know you haven't got much to give, but I won't ask for more than you can handle. Team Rocket gets a bad rap, but when you come to know us, you'll discover that we're reasonable people." That was when Proton shifted the bundle under his arm, and I first saw the R on his shirt, bright red against the black. I'd known I was doing shady business, and I should have suspected sooner that it was with Team Rocket. I don't know why I didn't. Not that it mattered. At this point, I was too far down the rabbit hole.